So we're about 6 o'clock now, so I just need to call the meeting to order. So somebody to move it, and somebody to second it. All right, perfect. So moved by Donna and second by Kelly that the meeting of the Emergency Services Committee be opened at 6 p.m. All in favor? And then I just need to the adoption of the agenda. So just somebody to move.
I just need to add one item. I'd like to do a bit of an update on the emergency response plan from emergency management perspective.
So do you have that?
I think we'll fall under staff reports.
So move by. Perfect. And second by. That the agenda for the Emergency Service Committee meeting for April 15th, 2024 be approved as circulated with the one amendment. All in favor? All right. And any disclosure of pecuniary interest?
Nope.
And we did the adoption of the previous minutes. So just you need to move it and second it for that. Moved by Alan, second by.
I'll second.
Emily. Thank you. That the minutes of the Emergency Services Committee meeting held March 18th, 2024 be adopted as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Any presentations or delegations? And we're down to staff reports. So 6.A report from Deputy Fire Chief regarding recent call reports.
If it's acceptable, Chair, I can speak on behalf of the Deputy Chief. So with respect to emergency response for the month of March 2024, there were 4 medical responses, 1 vehicle fire, 1 grass fire. And that concludes the incidents. What I'm also doing is working with the Deputy Chief to construct a formatted monthly response. And what I have asked him to do is to reach back into last year's comparator and then give a year to date. So also tonight I have for emergency response for 2023, month of March, 5 medical calls, 1 false alarm.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks for that. 6B report from Deputy Fire Chief regarding recent training.
Okay, if I may.
Perfect.
So with respect to the training in March, the monthly training was focused on SCBA training, search and rescue. And this weekend, as we spoke to, there was training that was conducted at the fire department for wildland firefighting, equivalent to the SP 103, which is the Ministry of Natural Resources standard for wildland firefighting, and is in a requirement of the agreement that we have with the Ministry of Natural Resources.
No other courses opening up or registration for any of those guys for?
The only other activity in the fire department that went on this month was that 2 members of the fire department attended the Northeastern Fire Education Conference in Huntsville.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember last month we got a chart, like a flow chart of everybody's training. So I know everybody knows kind of where they're at. So I'm sure you guys are pushing people through and registering them for courses as they're available and as they're ready.
Correct.
And then new agenda item 6C, sorry, emergency management plan update.
Okay. Since my last update to council, I think it's been a little while, and it was prior to this venue where we have a chance to provide our information and activities, and that this becomes the communication path to council for what's going on. So I just want to talk about the emergency management tabletop exercise, which is part of one of our requirements for our compliance. We held that last fall, I believe it was December. And our scenario for the tabletop exercise was a train wreck in Bonfield, given the tracks right outside the door here. And the purpose of the tabletop was to evaluate the processes and protocols to establish an EOC, to evaluate the physical location. I have this for you, Donna, to and evaluate the physical location and functionality of the EOC, and evaluate the effectiveness of the ERP toward establishing the EOC. So we have the right tools, we have the right place, we have the right documents. And so we went through that scenario, and we had a number of recommendations about this. One of the most notable things and why we chose this exercise is we've relocated the EOC from out in the chamber councils to here. We've got some new technology. We've got some opportunities to improve on the venue in terms of if we had an emergency and we could have an extended emergency, still have a facility that served us well. So we looked at some things like whiteboards, functionality, sign-in sheets and things like that. And so we've got an action list to make those improvements over the next year. So that's the purpose of the tabletop was to identify opportunities for improvement, and we certainly have those. And I'll share that with you that I could get to council as part of these minutes. The second part of that meeting was to provide annual training, and the annual training is a requirement of the legislation as well. The purposes of the training is to review mandatory knowledge areas, an annual review of the emergency response plan and EOC, and I have a plan here. Recommendations for improvement, presentation to council, again, using this venue, and resolution to council to amend existing bylaws to formalize changes. So we do have some changes that will have to go to council to amend the bylaw, most notably with the composition of the Community Emergency Management Program Group and the Emergency Control Group, which are now just the Reader's Digest version. We've virtually merged those two groups to the same 5 people for both groups. And so it improves the efficiency in training, collaboration, and awareness. So we've made that change, but we will need to follow the procedure to get that entrenched in our bylaws. So the knowledge areas I think are well known to people, and it's just a review of the annual training and stuff like that. The final item I have in this report is we've made amendments over the past couple of years to the emergency response plan. We've streamlined it. We've added in those changes that will be entrenched by bylaw. We've downsized the list of contacts and making better use of technology, the internet and lists and so on. So rather than typing everything out because they're subject to change, we're relying a little more on technology and the internet and the things that it has to offer. And we're also adopting a greater use of CGIS rather than having hand-drawn maps or maps that we have to reproduce. We've adopted or we're hoping to adopt the procedure to throw up the map on the TV screen and have a live and most recent version of where things are happening in real time. So and this document is now a control document where previously it wasn't. So changes to the document holders will follow a formal process for revision, and we've streamlined the number of copies that are actually issued to most how will I say it? People that need them the most will have a copy. The rest will remain here in the EOC, and they'd be available in the event that we have the police or EMS or some other agency comes in. They'll have a copy here that they can use while they're in the EOC. But we don't have to issue to them, keep it up to standard and all that. So we streamlined the processes and procedures. We've eliminated the opportunities for errors. And so that concludes my report of the emergency response plan.
And it doesn't make sense to have it digital?
It is certainly digital. The emergency response plan is posted on our website. The non-confidential pieces, confidential pieces remain with the book holders of binder. So
we couldn't digitalize that with a password or whatever for police for.
You'd have to do it in multiple formats anyway. So we could have it digitally, but you have to put contingencies in place. So we always would have a hard copy.
Right.
And as it's updated, it's printed out and then it's updated on the website. And then we would probably keep it safely on a G drive somewhere. has access to the control group would have
Yeah,
access.
our thought on this was that police or EMS wouldn't really have need for those unless they were here.
Well, we wouldn't know who the players were really.
Until you have
we
them,
get
see,
here.
so
And-
like
and-
the salient piece of document is the response plan itself.
Yes,
And I think that's what we've put up on the website, and the other details are for the participants of the EOC when something really hits the fan, if you will.
and so the contact list, how often is that tested and updated?
Well, it hasn't been tested a lot in the past.
Yeah, so.
And it actually is in part, is one of the items in our improvement plan to incorporate that into our annual tabletop exercise. Yeah, I mean, exercising this document is considered a tabletop exercise, so we can do a call list, a call
Yep,
test.
yep,
So, and as we work through this document as a control document, it'll demonstrate that we send out an email, we get responses, and so it becomes part of a protocol of communication collaboration. And I think that'll help.
And so the other thing that we were talking about was the reception center or the evacuation center. So is there a contract for that?
Yeah, yes, there is.
And what provisions are made for the reception center to have things like a generator and like in the contract, they understand that they have to be fully accessible and ready to go, right? If we
The
are.
agreement we have with the community center, which is really the parish hall, is limited to the availability of the space. So what we're working on is we need to provide, the meat and potatoes of it in terms of, who are volunteer groups,
Mhm.
the Red Cross, where are we gonna get the beds and cots, where are we gonna get the people to make meals? So none of that was in place when I inherited this position, and but we definitely need to, and we need to build that into the plan.
Yeah, you have to engage the Humane Society or SPCA or.
And our service groups,
Yeah.
the Lions, the Golden Age Club, people that will, but those services need to be formalized, and that's certainly. There's always an issue of, we have a lot of willing volunteers, but you don't want just anybody picking up a chainsaw and cutting down a tree. So there, we recognize that there needs to be training, and there needs to be contracts, and there needs to be information provided to these service groups. So it's
And then
but it is on our radar.
when we exercise, we did a tabletop last year, so discussion based. So the next would be some type of ballroom leading up to like a field exercise, right? So like you do the building block approach of how you exercise design
In terms of our tabletops,
in terms of just exercising.
exercising.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think it's certainly is progressive and building in nature. And I think we've got a bit of way to go, to be honest. But we started with, putting the fundamental building blocks in place. Do we have a place? Do we have well-trained people? And then our exercises will become more sophisticated and elaborate as we learn.
Great.
And we do have a new group, and in fairness,
Yeah.
we've got a lot of new people, and it does. Over the course of time require you to sort of back up sometimes.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. We're in in a building phase right now. And we've got some experienced people. We didn't lose everybody in terms of the turnover. But your point is well taken. And that report.
Okay, that's on. Okay, on that 7, so items for committee discussion. So 7A, receive and review progress of the CRA. 7B, receive and review progress of the 100-day plan and assessment for the fire department. Guess I'll start with that. Sir Kelly, yeah.
Mr. Chair, did you want I want to talk about A, or you've done that now, or?
We're at a point now where we're just waiting for some feedback and collaboration on the CRA. I would say in terms of CRA progress, we're probably about 80%. We're at a point now where it's evaluation in nature and gap analysis, and sort of what is our we've done the review, and so what do we do about it? And that's the stage we're at now, and I think that is actively in progress with Kelly and Dave at the fire department.
We have some dates scheduled for, because June is fast approaching.
It certainly is.
So we have a deadline.
Right. So I believe we had an obligation to get feedback to you by this date. And when speaking to Dave, he did mention that he had commented on a number of the items
Okay,
in the CRA. So I'm not sure if those have been incorporated or if
I haven't received them, so we'll follow up after this
Follow up.
meeting, but if he's done it, it's a matter of getting it and getting it to me, or I haven't seen it, or I haven't looked at the replace maybe.
Yeah, and I agree that I think in terms of timelines, moving the timelines up, so there's a good review opportunity for council and this committee to look at the CRA would be advantageous to us.
So I think we're looking at having it to this committee in our May meeting. So can we maybe work backwards from that, right? It should be done by our May meeting, and then June it goes to council, and then July it goes to the province, right?
I'm confident we can achieve that, and I think that's the schedule we've kind of been working to already.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable
Yeah.
schedule.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So just to reiterate, have it back at this committee for the May meeting, council for June, implementation. July.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll definitely work with you on that one.
We'll fill in the gaps offline, yes.
Sounds good. With respect to item B, it's just past the 30-day timeline of the 100-day strategic action plan overview. So the developments phase, I was able to have a number of meetings with the CAO and help with defining the role and the scope of our role of our job here. And we met with the fire department, and I'm meeting with the fire department on a weekly basis since to help further develop that scope. In that, we've developed a schedule and action plan in the Bonfield Township Fire Department operational assessment document. And it's been scoped out with the priorities that we're going to tackle. And that concluded the first 30 days, and there were a number of documents that were reviewed in that process. So current structure, bylaws, all the budgets, all of the items that administratively operate the fire department. So in the second phase, we've started the department operational assessment, and right off the bat, we tackled two of the most significant safety items. And in the scope of the departmental operational assessment, we laid out the fact that when and if we came upon an item that was of safety to the fire department and or liability concern to the municipality, we would stop and tackle those. And in that, we are currently dealing with the SCBA and the personal protective equipment. I currently have draft briefing note to the CAO. I was waiting for some additional information to complete the briefing note. It is now in. I will have that to the CAO for review and action with respect to the SCBA that are definitely a serious and significant safety concern for the municipality and the firefighters, both in the liability situation and with safety to the firefighters using the current SCBA that are anywhere from 25 to 30 years old. In the briefing note, I've worked in a number of options for the municipality, giving consideration to the financial, burden that purchasing an SCBA that has on the municipality. So that includes the numbers, when, how, and I think we've come up with a pretty reasonable recommendation, or a stronger recommendation amongst the three options that we have to present that I think will be pleasing to council. And as soon as that's fulfilled, I'll tackle the protective clothing, which I'm not as concerned about. It's predominantly the SCBA. At least there are a number of compliant turnout gear in the department. So I think the logical step there is, and then we do have funds available to purchase. The issue with purchasing both SCBA and protective clothing these days is delivery dates. When you're looking at 6-month delivery dates for protective clothing. So I think internally we build a plan that that mitigates any safety concerns for the fire department, and that we'll move forward on with back to our assessment.
So we're looking for a council update when, because I think we had asked for, once a month at least to start with, or more frequently.
For equipment upgrade?
Just a fire, update, just to have fire at the meetings.
Oh, the come to the meeting, sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they were looking at, once a month. I don't know whether it's the first or second meeting. I don't think they probably care.
I'm not sure if you were aware of that, or,
I think Nikki mentioned that. I wasn't sure that there was an obligation to necessarily come, but that's no problem.
so we would like fire to actually come
I'm ready.
and give the report.
Ready.
Yes.
To present that
Yes, yeah.
at any of the upcoming council meetings.
Okay, perfect. If you can talk to the CEO then. And
Sure,
figure
I can
out
do that.
how you are, and I would say that this from here, we would probably want an emergency management update as well, right? Just like what you have given us. So I guess, does that flow from this, that would flow from here, right?
I think I was presented that.
Yeah.
I have this.
Yeah.
No problem doing
No, yeah,
I think I can
that.
do
If we're
that.
gonna put them on the
yeah.
spot.
So
No problem.
I think it's a good time for
Yeah.
it now too, so that,
Well, and I think it's a good opportunity to refresh what this is and why it's here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so that it doesn't.
we are making progress.
Okay. And then 17, review the first draft of the open air burning policy. So previously, I don't know the dates offhand, it was like April 1st to October 1st, you could only burn from 7 at night to 7 in the morning. And then the rest of the year was open anytime. We're trying to be a little bit more user friendly so that we could have campfires in the early evening, maybe campfires during the day on the weekends. So that's what this was about. Has everybody had a chance to read through this?
Yeah.
And I guess let's start with Kelly. Obviously, we need to go by people that are a little bit more knowledgeable than what I want. So,
One thing I did do today, so last week when I got the bylaw and went through it, I immediately went back to the Forest Fire Prevention Act. It's been a number of years since I've been in the north and under the auspices of the FPPA or the FPA. So I had to renew my knowledge of the act. What I found in there that there's been a number of amendments, and they actually with a number of articles took them back. And one thing I was used to seeing in there was the fact that you couldn't burn in the day, and they had it was the 2 hours after sunset and in the morning. That appears to be all gone. So I did reach out to the ministry today, this morning actually, and I'm waiting for a call back to talk to them about where things are at. Generally, and it's not impossible. Day burning presents a significant issue. It presents an issue, particularly for a place like the township here, with care and control and having staff to go out to look after the issues. Is it impossible to do? No. But it can pose some serious concerns. And really why that two big things that cause me to have some anxiety on daytime burning is one, the crossover point. And that's when the dew point gets to a point where the combustion of the fuels in the forest run a lot faster and cause bigger fires. And two, and probably the most significant issue, the response of our volunteers not being in town. And I did and am aware that even this month, we had medical calls in the daytime where we didn't have response. We just didn't have people to go. So I am clear to take direction on what the council requires of a burning bylaw. I have worked in municipalities similar to Bonfield structure where there are business owners that rely on camps and campers and that type of business to run their organizations. That we can talk about exemptions for campgrounds. A permit process is certainly a mitigating factor. The other thing that occurs, and as you're aware, we do have an agreement with the Ministry of Natural Resources for supplemental support if the fire department were to require predominantly air attack. The problem with that is it's incredibly expensive, up to $10,000 an hour for water bombers to come. And I would never want to get the municipality into a spot where we're calling it for air support. So I did have a conversation with the CEO on the bylaw. I can and will pivot and make amendments as directed. Before council really jumps in to the deep end with the day burning, we explore all the options and at least you understand the liability that comes with daytime burning. And then we can build it, if that's the direction, to limit that liability for the municipality.
Yeah, so
Is this allowing daytime burning?
This cut does not.
Yeah,
But the CEO did ask of me, to expand and come up with a compromise with something that we could look at for daytime burning.
yeah, I
Did I
mean,
not read this right? It's daytime burning on the weekends.
Daytime burning
It's
is
daytime burning. That's what I mean. Like it's advocating daytime burnings on the weekends in this bylaw version.
no, the dates are the same, so Monday to Thursday, 6 p.m. in the evening. And extinguished no later than 8 a.m. the following day or earlier.
it should be 7 p.m.
Yeah,
7 p.m.
yeah, but then it says Friday to Sunday, 6 p.m. Friday evening. Oh, and extinguished no later than 8 a.m. Monday morning or earlier, so that's the whole weekend.
That's the whole weekend.
So we've had a number of complaints, or at least inquiries, I don't know about complaints, about, hey, we can't even have a campfire at dinner. Obviously, with how dry things are this year, I think we're gonna be putting a lot of work and effort into updating this, and it's not gonna matter, right?
Yes.
But I would like to at least, have this ready to go for future years. I think 5 would be ideal dinner time, but 6 is a compromise. I think on the weekends, I think moving to a licensing system where we can put whatever parameters we think need to be in. Something like we need a amount of sand, around the fire ring. And your fire can only be like for a campfire, it can't be, brush clearing, has to be super small during those hours, during daytime hours on the weekend, so that people can do some property cleanup if they're cutting stuff really small and just around all day, kind of looking after it and feeding it and keeping it really small. And then campfires and like family outings and things of that nature. So I'm okay with 6. I think 5 would be more ideal, but I mean, we need to start somewhere. And I'm okay with it being on the weekend as well. I know we would have more people to respond on weekends.
And we do have provisions in the existing bylaw for cooking and warmth. And I'm just gonna say this, that people use that exemption to their advantage. And in a system where we have better control and we can sort of eliminate that circumvention through permitting, through education, through more controlled controls through the weekend and the fire, like the fire pits and size of it, that we would actually be more aware of what people are doing and.
This is
and less likely-
prescriptive with all of those things though, right? It talks about how big the fire has to be.
Yeah.
And this is about everybody having a permit. So I would go at the beginning of the year if I want to burn at any time during the April to October time, I would have to have a permit. Right?
Is that what we're?
That's the way I read
That's the
it.
way I read it
That's what I'm
too, is
saying.
that
So-
everybody has to have one.
I had two different thought processes, and again, wasn't really involved, I thought it was basically 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. for everybody. And if you wanted to go 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. or weekends, you needed to apply for the permit. I thought,
I thought it was, if I want to burn it all, I have to go get a permit. Because then if something happens, so I had a couple questions. One, I think that a clerk should be defined in the definitions, so that was one of my suggestions. And we should also include those big heater propane things as well in the part where they talk about the propane. Because there's the propane fireplaces, which don't have any regulations. You can do whatever you want with them because there's an on-off switch, right? But I think with the prevalence of those big heaters now, we should include that in here. By name, you know, the big heaters that everybody's got, so. Yeah, so I think that, and then the other thing that, I read it. Yeah, so, Nikki's, notes, she was looking at, the distance and things like that too. And around grass fires, brush piles,
Yeah,
etc.
she added the feet in with the meters.
Yes, yes.
so I'm from Hamilton. And I had two houses, one was in Hamilton, one was outside of Hamilton. So Hamilton, you could burn any time depending on where in Hamilton you were, you needed to apply for a permit. They only issued so many permits. The other municipality had similar to what we had, like I think it was 6 to 6 was there. But then they came up with an extra permit that you could apply for. It was expensive, it deterred a lot of people because it was like $100 for the season, but fire department actually came down to look at your setup. So you needed so much sand, you needed a hose close by, had to be far enough away from trees and structures and buildings and whatever. And you had to basically sign an agreement saying that your fires are gonna be so small, you had to have a fire ring, it had to be approved. So your $100 fee, you applied at the start of the year, they come down, they had a look at your facility. They signed it with you, you signed it, and then it went back in that way if it ever got out of hand.
You're
It would
liable.
essentially be like,
Yeah,
hey, look, you agreed.
Yeah.
2 feet by 2 feet inside a fire ring, inside that area, only you had a fire way on the other side of your property, that's not where it was licensed.
so this to me reads like everybody has to have a permit, regardless. of
That was
whether
my
you
take,
have
but I
power
will
or
back
not.
and give it another scrub.
Also,
Because I see the merit in what you said for that.
We've always been 7 to 7 with very little issue or no
Right.
issue.
right,
So I don't want to make it cost prohibitive for every single person.
right,
We're looking at user fees.
Yeah.
There's probably a very small percentage of people that want to pay additionally to have the luxury of having fire earlier in the evening or on the weekends.
Yeah.
For kids, for families, for some small. thing.
so my other question was, so it is the responsibility of the person granted a permit to check and monitor burning conditions. This can be done in part by contacted fire department on these laws, but in here it talks about me entering into an agreement with the township. So And is it by person? Is it by address? Is it by, so if my adult children are there, but I'm not there and they're burning. But it's my name on the permit, but my children are the ones who are burning. Is it the person? Is it the address? I just think we need to be clear. Do I have to put everybody's name that is allowed to burn on my property, right?
Especially if we're looking at for campgrounds and stuff like that.
Well, for campgrounds, but for residential, right? So for, because how many campgrounds do we have? And campgrounds to me are easy, right? They're easy, that kind of an easier, you know, you put them in here, it's like a one-time fee for the campground guy and they sign off that they are liable and responsible for what's going on in their campground. And then the fire department still goes in and makes a check.
Airbnbs.
Yeah,
Right?
well, there's that,
There's a
I
lot of
know,
people that
and
are-
that's the thing, right?
Going out of-
Yeah, so do we hold the owner responsible?
I
How?
think it would have to. be-
And that's so in my past, just my previous past life. Instead of going to part one or part three POA process, I did exactly that. We, in the user fee bylaw, we built a fine or fee for service structure. And the homeowner got the ticket or the fee. And what that did was put a bit more liability
On the owner.
on the owner.
Yeah, yeah,
And then if there was an issue and the Smiths came and rented your Airbnb for the weekend, but we don't know where they live, you can't track them down, where I know that the Jones
That's right.
owned the place
That's
and
right.
they were responsible.
Yeah.
So that's the fee structure that we had, and what you also just elaborated to with respect to the campgrounds is exactly the process that we built there. There were a number of campgrounds in the
Mhm.
previous municipality that came from in the rural area around Rice Lake. And they paid one permit fee, they controlled
Yep.
the fires.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
but what is the, so I guess again, so I have, so if there was a fire at my house at noon on Saturday, and someone walking by saw that there was a fire and called the township, then someone comes out and says, do you have a permit, right? Like, is that what we're going for
I think they
here?
Basically just have a registry here of. Online, so if you have a nosy neighbor and
Yeah,
says,
yeah,
hey, Donna's having a campfire,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
these
yeah.
guys are just gonna look up your address and be like, yep, okay. no problem."
Okay, yeah, that's good, I like that,
I
okay.
would recommend it, or if we go down this path,
Mhm.
who's responding, the call format that the firefighters are alerted to has a very, very good burn bylaw process that works right off your phone. And you can immediately find who has a permit,
Oh,
and
okay,
who doesn't if you use their thing, and I think they charge $250 a permit to administer
okay,
that, so I would build that into your fee
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
and then use that. The fee structure to. Personally, I'm a big fee for service,
yeah,
because not everybody uses it.
Yeah.
And if you implemented something like that, there are going to be ultimately enough people that end up paying for the service. This is. The more that we allow, the more you're gonna get, in terms of for follow-up, and even the degree that we're speaking, there's going to be a significant service requirement on behalf of the municipality to maintain the permits. You're from experience, you're gonna get people calling, saying they put their clothes out to dry for the day, and people are burning, and the smoke's smelling all their clothes,
Yeah.
and people are having the windows open, you're gonna get environmental people calling saying, I can't breathe. I've gone through this
Right.
like hundreds of times, so the urban area, like the hamlets, are going to be a problematic area for us. So I don't know if we look at, areas that you can and can't burn. There are a lot of
Mhm.
municipalities that have, that are in urban areas that they don't allow daytime burning, and then at nighttime, get your clothes off the line and people can have their campfires or
Right.
whatever. With respect to the cooking and warmth, that pretty much is gone in terms of, like, I've been to a number of fires in my career where people have had a package of wieners out and, or Mark, that's not cooking or warmth, that just doesn't that doesn't wash any longer, and
Yeah.
the whole caveat to this is, and I think we really need to get and hear back from the ministry on what their take is on it, because at one time in the northern area, in the forest fire protection area, you could be more prescriptive than the Forest Fire Prevention Act, but you could not go outside of
Less, yeah.
that. So as it stands now, what I read in the act, it does not say that you cannot burn through the day, because it once did. When I was in Muskoka, it clearly said that you could not light a fire in the daytime. And now it says by permit, so
So provincial parks, you've always been able to burn all day. And
they're an anomaly. Provincial parks are exempt. And when I was in Muskoka, I bordered on Algonquin Park, and we always had this issue, and it was, I'm dating myself, it was in the 90s. So we used to have campgrounds, and business owners calling the municipality quite upset that they couldn't burn in
Camps.
a kilometer down the road in a provincial park that's exempt from Forest Fire Prevention Act could burn. And that's why I was saying, I think we really need to take a hard look. And I don't know how many campgrounds or businesses that rely on that, but if there were, we could build some form of exemption in there for these campgrounds that could conduct business. We just have to be prepared for the other phase of the residents saying, you're letting Mr. Smith burn and I can't burn. And then the municipality is also made up of a number of farming properties that farm, and that's part of their business. So I think you need to take that into consideration as well, because they use that for their livelihood, and it's a really difficult thing to do. It really is. And I spoke to my current employment. They have an environmental team, and spoke to the director there last week, and doing some early training on values protection of infrastructure. We had some people come up from out west and do some training, and what they're telling us is anything and everything that we've ever learned about the forest and how it burns and travels is out the window. So it's old technology, and we must adhere to the new technology. And I'm trying to get myself caught up to speed with some of that. And
It's burning differently.
burning much differently, burning sooner, burning hotter, burning faster. And forested areas that were never really risk-driven forests like black spruce and heavy swamped areas now are still the same, but you have deciduous forests that have traveling fires and digging fires, and the lightning strikes are immense. So the technology's just changing, our environment's changing, and the technology's trying to keep up with these things. So we've studied and are studying Fort McMurray, the Slave Lake fires. Slave Lake burned twice, and we're really trying to hone in my current job in the nuclear industry on preventing, these places from burning with these forest fires. So
We had the IC from Fort McMurray at one of the conferences that I was at, and talked about, so we should probably be looking at evacuations and forest fires and some kind of personal preparedness for people training as well. Yeah, I read this that other way, but I like it the way that you're saying that we
7 to 7 for
7 to
everybody?
7, yeah,
And
and then
a
if you
permit
want, yeah.
for outside.
Right, and then, we can enforce as we go, right? It would be,
Then- Then like the permit to, if you apply for a permit this year and your fires are greater than what you agreed, or anything that's
Yeah.
at hand, or anything like that, you just don't get the license.
right. Right, and then it just becomes easier too, because if I've applied for a permit this year and you've got all of my information and you see that my fire pit is within regulation and nothing has changed, it's a really quick for the next year, right? So I've got my hose right there, I've got, someone always watching, and
And I can see a fee structure,
I didn't see a fee
so I
structure.
don't know what the thoughts were on that.
No, but we did see that, North Bay charges $27 for,
For everybody, just for the right to burn from whatever it is, 6 at night till 6 in the morning.
Oh,
or
okay.
whatever, Not outside the hours.
right,
Just sort of point of clarification, when I talked about the exemptions for cooking and warmth, I was hoping to see those eliminated from our bylaw. And remove that opportunity for people to use, that fabricated excuse that I've got a package of hot dogs and I could have a fire daytime burning. So if we're going to have more burning, extended hours, but stricter regulations, then I don't think we should give people an opportunity to circumvent the rules through
Right.
some arbitrary loophole, yeah.
I
Yeah.
quite agree.
So for campgrounds, yes, because when you go camping, you use a fire to cook breakfast, lunch and dinner usually, right?
That would be embodied in the exemption that we give the
Yeah,
campground,
yeah,
but not for everybody.
no. I agree. So yeah, maybe some more clarity around that it is, everyone gets 6 to 8 and then,
Everyone gets 7 to 7, right? That's the way it is currently. 7 to 7, so I'm looking at not changing anything.
oh, okay.
It's 7 to 7,
Okay,
like it's always been in
Okay.
Longville, we've never changed it, it's always been 7 to 7.
Yeah.
But if you want to pay for your permit,
you can burn from 7 to 8 on Monday over the weekend.
6, right? is
Yeah,
what it
6
says. I was hoping 5, I don't know the difference of an hour. Looking at you again.
It depends on the day.
Availability.
And there's a mathematical equation when the crossover happens.
Yeah.
And I've done that in a number of places that I've been where we back down the time, particularly as the seasons change. So, yeah, I think that's fair,
5 is fair.
at least to look at it.
Yeah.
And
I think that makes a big difference for
Yeah,
for
it's
families.
a material change, right, as
Yeah.
opposed to 6, so,
Yeah, I think it's 7 to 7 for every single person in Longville, like it's always been.
yeah,
Not changing, rewriting the wheel here. We are adding a user fee fire burning permit,
mhm,
however that looks, whether we're doing inspections or whether we're trusting people to take photos and sending it in, or
right,
how we're setting that up. Saying very specifically, you need to have this. Signing off on it, they're paying the fee, and then they can burn out 5 or 6 or whatever.
well, and then is the fee, because there's different things that are outlined here, right? There's that 6 by 6 foot fire, and then there's the 3 by 3 foot fire, there's the barrel burn, like they talk about all different types of things.
I think that it restricts it to 24 by 24 for all fires.
the one square meters, what that was, or?
Yeah,
Like, I think if we did anything, that even the 7 to 7 burning would make the fire smaller.
yeah, and so that, I think we would have to
I
to
think
do that.
I can just tell people it has to be, you have to have some sand around
Yeah.
your fire pit, and you have to have a metal ring to contain it.
Yeah, that's usually something to contain it, tools to fight anything that gets out of the fire area.
Yeah.
Is the norm.
And then I did like that, because you can't burn, when there's trees right beside you as
Right.
well, right? There was a distance to
I think it's
the,
5 meters or
yeah,
something
to
like
the
that,
trees, yeah,
from combustibles.
Yeah.
For a shed or.
Yeah.
That helps also with your urban fire areas where it's tight,
yeah.
to your neighbors, and. Because it will spark neighbor disputes, guaranteed, I guarantee you.
Yeah, I think this language has to change. So it is the responsibility of the person who is burning to have easily accessible. So is it or is it the permit holder? Like what this is, how do we distinguish?
Well, I think that was pre-permit, that this doesn't really recognize a permit, so
Okay.
I think now
Well, it
if
does
we're gonna go
because
permit, but I think you change that to the permit holder.
But
But
in 3.7, it says in any prosecution under the provision of this file that requires a permit, the onus is on the person charged to prove that the person had a permit at the time the offense is alleged to have been committed.
And I
So,
think, no, where if you're. If it's a reasonable path forward, I will bring forward to the CEO the thought about. The permit being assigned to the property,
yeah,
not the permit holder.
yeah, and it should be very clear.
With liability
Yeah.
and that cleans up any Airbnb, any campground.
And like I say, we're not looking at people doing massive property cleanup and burning during the day, we're looking at. Contained in a fire ring, right? Like if you have a ton of branches that you wanna burn up, you just gotta come up and they gotta slow bit by bit inside your fire, right? We're
Right,
not having big out of control fires during the day, right? We're having safe in a fire ring with sand.
I'll bring this forward and. Make those amendments and get it back to the committee.
Now, I know our season is coming up, so based on what we discussed today, I'm wondering if it can go directly from you to CAO to council
and we have to redo the bylaw, right? So that
in another month.
amendments have to go
Been
and,
asking for this for a year and a bit. So we're gonna look at another month to bring it back here.
well, what we could do is we can prorate though, right? So whenever, we'll just prorate the season, whenever it starts.
And the fire season has started April 1.
Correct, so now we're
Right
just,
now.
yeah, prorating from now until October 30.
And I'm kind of with the chair, I would suspect in 2 to 3 weeks, we will probably be in a situation where there's a burn ban, a fire ban on
Yes,
for the entire
yes,
province. So,
exactly.
and I would not be surprised if that lasts the entire summer.
Yeah.
Given the conditions that we're already seeing.
So this would make this moot, but we should have it in place.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I don't. Wondering, like I say, if with all the discussion tonight, if it even has to come back to us.
No, I think we've beaten it up really good. I think it can go to council and have them. I agree, yeah,
Skip us,
Okay.
that saves us a month.
Yeah.
Right, depending on how long it's gonna take
yeah.
Kelly and Mickey to look at it, it could be in front of council in a week and a bit.
And we have excellent representation on council from this committee, so I think it'll be great.
I think that works.
Keep it one buddy.
So. Yeah, I think I would like. The permit system just to be for the outside of the hours.
Good.
And everybody else.
And I think just to be clear,
Force people to buy a permit.
yeah, proration would be only for this year, not for ensuing years, right? So if you you decide
If
that,
we're,
yeah,
if we're in the next month on this, I don't even think we would do it, right? Like, don't even prorate it.
okay,
This is what it is for the year.
yeah,
Right, like.
yeah.
why
Well, and
make
it wouldn't be
difficult?
prorated in any ensuing year.
No.
If you decide to get it in June, it's gonna be one fee, right?
What's that?
Yeah, one standard fee, yeah.
That's what I've done in the
Yeah.
past. If you got your permit in August, because that's when you can.
Yeah,
camping,
that's
then
one.
it was good to knock to August. And
Oh, it's a year fee?
A year
yearly
fee.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I think it should be an in-year fee.
It's like in-year fee.
An in-year fee is that it's only good for this year. So it's not, that's too hard to administer.
Does, cause.
Yeah.
So it's new permit every April.
Exactly. So you got a 2023
So
permit?
it's just April to
Ex-
October or
Yeah.
whatever?
Yes. yeah.
But then you're saying you can't burn during the day on the weekends in October, November and December?
No, that, I don't think that would need to change.
No, that doesn't change because after October 31st, you can burn
You don't need a
anytime.
permit.
You don't
So
need a
It'd
permit,
be after
right?
October 31, right?
Yeah. So
Hopefully
You're saying April to October is the permit.
is the permit and
You're going to get people to come in on June 1 and say, I don't want to pay for the permit
no,
because
it's a year pass. It's an in-year pass. So there's one 2023 fire permit.
Yeah.
We will try to not make it so cost prohibitive that, you know, it's crazy ridiculous, but it's good for when you get it. And then people will know to get theirs in March or January for the year. And then it's good for the year.
Then a trail pass or.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same. I was wondering, I guess that's what you're getting at by prorated. So if you come in and you only got 3 months left in the burning
Correct.
season, you pay for 3 months. So would we consider a monthly fee? If you burn the whole season, it's a 6-month fee.
I don't think so. I don't think it's that complicated on that.
Me too, but it makes it complicated going from year to year. I
Yeah,
think
no,
it's
that's-
an in
that's
year,
okay.
so it's a 2023, 2024, 2025,
Yeah.
that's what you're paying
Yeah,
for,
that's-
and then it's easy to administer. And yeah,
Yeah, no.
and then there's no, you don't have to keep a spreadsheet to say, oh, this person got it in October or in August, and now it's
Well,
good till.
going to anyways with the burn permit process, like you will have that on the fee, but
Yeah, but then it
Uh,
doesn't have to go, it ends, everything ends October 31st, so, yeah.
in terms of fee, then where did you have, I mean, I could do some research and kind of
Okay, that'd be great.
get a balance of the area. I don't already, I haven't talked to anybody from East Ferris, but I know that, you know, East here, they have fees, so.
And I think if we could maybe even find out, so if I needed the fire protection captain or somebody to come and have a look and sign off, what would they get for an hour's worth of, because that, it would take an hour, I would think. And then, yeah, so what would that,
Off that, yeah, it's an average, and so they
Yeah.
get paid at a point, like a points, they call it a point system, so
right,
there's a set. Amount of
yeah,
money
you'd
is
you'd have to figure out what that's.
divided by how
Yeah.
many calls you get in a year, and
Exactly, so if we could kind of figure that out, because it would have to be, we'd have to figure out what the service is gonna cost.
and then build in your administration would
You need
be.
that service for every permit?
So
That's starting to become a burden too.
I think so, but so how, we would really have to think about this, so if I did it this year and they came and they checked me, and I mean, I think we do have to do our due diligence though, right? If we're going to say that this is, a thing. Someone would have to come out and check my fireplace like you did in Hamilton, so come out and check, but maybe next year they don't have to, right? Or,
Would a picture suffice?
yeah,
You know, you could provide a drawing or a picture of your fire pit. And I mean, if you're not in compliance and something happens, you said, I've got a 2x2 fire pit, I've got a picture of it, and it's
That's
obviously not
that's,
happening.
people are signing off on it, so that could be the other thing that indemnifies us.
Just-
I've done both, but I've had full-time staff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Go out and,
so that might be the
Spend
better
time,
way,
but-
yeah,
for what I used to give out was a commercial permit to builders and construction people. And that's exactly, they would build up a plan and submit a plan, and then they would get the commercial building burn permit. Because most times it was big, but I think the key here to success is the keeping it simple.
yeah, I agree.
And I think one of the drawbacks that we're discovering, Santana and I, the folks over at the fire station are busy with their lives and their work, and we're struggling just getting day-to-day stuff done. So I think asking someone to go out to start checking 100 or 200 or 300 permits
No, you are correct,
would
I
be
think,
onerous.
if we're prescriptive enough, and I'm the person who knows. Also, I feel like people have been burning for 100 years here, so it's not, they're not, you know, we're not, this isn't gonna be, oh, the wild, wild west, and all of a sudden there's gonna be huge blazes. People are responsible and they've been doing it all this time, so if we give them the guidelines and what have you, then I think that would be enough. They sign off, we sign off. And then it would be complaints driven after that, right? If people think that, you know, someone just likes how some of the other programs work. Yes, yes.
And then the only other item that I will, if we're going to go down this road, that I would recommend and want to talk about is if the fire rating gets into high or extreme, the permits cancel, then they can burn in low or moderate. And with the burning, is that reasonable and rational to do with a permit process system?
When we follow fire, provincial fire ban, didn't we?
So the ban completely eliminates any burning.
Right.
But if before it goes into a fire ban, they can get extreme conditions or high conditions. And what I would recommend is that if it gets high or extreme, the crossover will land earlier in the day and last through the night. So I would suggest that we start to monitor or prohibit the permit burning, you know, in high or extreme conditions.
Yeah, and just revert back to the 7 to 7.
And in the permit, we did already talk to
Yeah.
the fact that you have to know what the
Yes, the
fire
person
rating
is
is.
responsible, that's
right.
right. The other thing too, then I guess, is that, you know, let's say I buy my Keener, I buy my permit in March, and then there's a fire ban the whole year. SOL, yeah. But I think we need to spell that out, right? Just like, I like open, transparent, clear, people just need to understand what the rules are, then there's no arguing or guessing or whatever, we just make it nice and clear. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's prudent.
thank you, yeah.
I'll work with the administration here. We'll rev this permit. We'll get it through to council, but in the interim, I will send it to the committee members
Okay.
for review. How's that? And then also, you can comment and just ensure we captured all of the discussions, discussions we had.
Yeah.
Tonight, that's not reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we won't write a resolution. And there's no correspondence. There's no closed session. There's just adjourned. We just need a mover and a seconder.
Happy to move that.
2 minutes past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That will be meeting be adjourned at 7:02 p.m. All in favor? Yeah. Thanks, guys.